And joining us in the studio is Professor Tomori Oyewale, a man who wears many caps, Professor of Virology at Redeemers University, a member of the Africa Regional Certification Commission for the Eradication of Poliomyelitis, and chair of the Nigerian Expert Review Committee on Poliomyelitis Eradication and Routine Immunization and National Lassa Fever Steering Committee. Welcome to News Across Nigeria, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure your committee or your commission is very, very busy at the moment. And fingers are crossed. Everybody's looking at what is going to be the result at the end of the day. So what work goes into this?
Well, first of all, there are three conditions which are given for polio eradication. You must have no polio, wild polio, for the last 3 years. In addition, your surveillance activity must be strong enough to detect any polio in any place, in any part of your country. And thirdly, the immunization, which is actually the basis of eradication, is that routine immunization will be strong enough so that in case there's any importation of the virus into the country, you have enough immunity not to let the virus spread. So the whole issue of eradication is actually based on a good routine immunization, plus 1 or 2 supplementary activities, and you can wipe out the virus, which has been done by a very, very country. 1988 was when the world decided that we should eradicate the disease, but we've had stops and stop and stop. We've not met the target, but I think we're very close to it now. Most of the 6 regions of the WHO, 4 have already eradicated and been declared free of polio. It remains Africa and EMRO, which is the East Mediterranean, okay, up in there. For Africa, we are the only country in Africa that yet to be declared free. Well, maybe you want to add DR Congo, CR and South Sudan, plus Nigeria. So Nigeria actually will be the last country to be declared free, because by the other countries have had their own more than 3 years before us. Therefore, so we are moving the process. And the process then includes that we verify every document that comes out of the country, which will be presented in June next year. And the only way it is to assist the country to ensure that the documentation meets the criteria set by the African Regional Certification Committee.
Zango, you talked about the issue of the support. So what level of support has Nigeria gotten from, say, the WHO since the incident in 2016, as reported?
Yes, actually Nigeria has had quite a lot of support from different agencies, WHO, UNICEF, Bill Gates Group, Gavi. You remember we signed an agreement with Gavi to extend support for Nigeria until 2028 or something like that. So the supports are coming in forms of assistance in surveillance, using GIS technique to locate places where people are. You remember there's still a part of Nigeria we don't have access to. The northeastern corner of Nigeria. And if it's not accessible, you have to find a way of identifying what exactly is going on there. So using the GIS systems, they're able to at least give an estimate of how many people are remaining in those places. You need to know the number of people, and then you can then know where they are, and then follow up with efforts. And Nigeria has been, the government, the military have been involved in giving access, assisting also in reaching those people, vaccinating them, and doing surveillance to be sure that there are no polio viruses in those places.
I'm sure that the whole of the country will be hoping that at the end of the verification that will come out on a clean slate at the end of the day. So besides the things you said, what are the specifics you're going to be looking at? They talked about looking at documentation. Is the committee also going to go to places to take samples of verify? So just maybe bits and pieces.
Yeah, in short, what we do, first of all, the document in Nigeria is going to require to be verified that what they write in there is correct. And that means that we're going to pick a few local governments, a few states, and just do a sampling and look at what they've written down, find out exactly what is going on. We're in Lagos State now. We're going to visit 2 or 3 local governments. We're going to pick up a local government that is doing very well and one that is not doing too well. So if you look at the routine immunization for Nigeria, it varies anything from about 80% in Lagos State to even as low as 5% in some states. These are things we need to check. and confirm. Is the 80% in Lagos State 80%? What about the one with 5%? What is happening? What are they doing? Because like I mentioned, you need to have a level of immunization, for you to say confidently, if this virus comes into this country, then we'll not have it spreading.
So what more would you expect from the government, say, in the next 6 months before the final result?
In the next 6 months, I mean, we must be clear with ourselves. One thing if you say there's no polio in Nigeria in the last 3 years, you'll have to say it and say in the areas where we have access to. If you don't access to the place, you don't know what is going on there. Therefore, together with the government and military, I think the most crucial thing we need to do in the next 6 months is to see how can we get access to every part of the country. In fact, somebody had asked me, when will Nigeria finish polio? I said, 1 plus X. And he says, what is X? I said, X is the day we have access to even Sambisa Forest. That day, give us a few more years, we'll rake off the whole thing.
Just the last question before I let you go. Yeah. At the end of the day, everybody is hopeful, as I said, to get a very good verdict from the commission. But what can be done at the family level, at the community level, to ensure that this remains the way it is in terms of the report? The last report was 2016. Yes.
Yeah. One thing is we keep having children every year in the country. Those children must be vaccinated. Continuous, I mean, we cannot stop vaccinating. Routine immunization continues to go on. So long as you're having children, if you don't vaccinate them, you're diluting the immunity level of the country. So every child in this country must be vaccinated. And so it's not the end yet. And polio is just a beginning. I mean, there are other diseases.
Professor, thank you so much for coming to the program. That's a good place to let it land at the moment.
Thank you very much, sir.
I've been speaking with Professor Tomori Oyewale, a man who wears many caps, as we said earlier. He's a professor of virology at Redeemers University, member of the Africa Regional Certification Commission for the eradication of poliomyelitis, and chair of the Nigerian Expert Review Committee on Poliomyelitis Eradication. And so we're going to be looking out for what will be their verdicts at the end of the exercise. I want to thank you for being part of the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzam.